Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Business Spotlight series. I'm your host Devi Malavika, and joining me today is the wonderful Edward Chelton Brown. Edward is the managing director at Chelton Brown Limited, which is again property professionals established in 1975, and their services cover all aspects of residential property. So, Edward, it is an absolute delight to have you on our Business Spotlight
Thank you.
series. From what I understand, if Chelton Brown is established in 1975, it's going to be almost 50 years as of
Yeah,
next year.
I'm looking well on
So
that,
that
aren't
is one, yeah. So, that is one long journey. So I am very sure that our viewers would want to hear more about that. So why don't you start us off by telling us a bit more about Chelton Brown and how your journey began?
Yeah, absolutely fine. So as jokingly said, look well on 50 years. It's actually my mum that set the business up. So mother set the business up, the origins of Chelton Brown can be sort of traced back to 1975. So Chelton Brown started off as a letting agent, which is untraditional for estate agents. Estate agents tend to start by selling houses and then working into lettings, whereas we've done sort of things the other way around. Sally started it off, mum, all those years ago, and built an amazing foundation and still works in the business today. Trying to retire. She'll tell you she does 3 days a week, when in reality it's still 7 days a week. But amazing to be part of the family business. Being second generation is something kind of special, and my sister works in the business as well, so it is a proper family business and comes with its stresses and its different challenges. But yeah, we love it. So yeah.
Wow. So that's just wonderful how things all started the unconventional way. Your mom is still part of the business and it's a proper
Yeah.
family business. So loving that, you have a strong bond going on there. So that's wonderful. So I am very sure that over the 50 years, you would have gone through a lot of growth in the business, which is why, where we are right now. So what would you attribute your growth to?
What was that? Sorry, what would we attribute the
Your growth in the
growth?
business.
Apologies.
So, yeah.
I think the first thing to say is Mum Sally set an amazing foundation for the business. When you look at how Chelton Brown has grown in that time, from a business that started in my grandma's back room to moving to different offices, the work that's gone in there is incredible to get the business off the ground. And I think throughout her time before me working in the business, I've been with Chelton Brown full time for nearly 12 years or so, sort of after university and bits and pieces, and I think she's taken a lot of risks, and I say risks, calculated risks is probably the way to put it. So there's been acquisitions along the way, and to grow a letting agency is actually it's hard work. It's a bit like changing bank. People don't move from one agent to another unless there's something wrong. So acquisition has been one of the biggest ways we've grown as much as we have. I think in more recent times the staff we have is fantastic. We're so blessed with we've got 30 plus members of the team who are all awesome, and them doing a good job is sort of helping us grow the way we are. Majority of our new clients, when you look at it, come from word of mouth. So that can, for me, it can only come down from the work that the team are doing and doing a good job.
Right.
So there's probably a number of factors. Early days it was Sally being charismatic and growing it from a one-man band to the smaller number of employees, and then really within the last 15-20 years it's been acquisition that's grown us to where we are.
Interesting. So that if what I'm hearing is acquisition, definitely, and also having a wonderful team has really pushed you to your growth and where you are right now. So that is wonderful. Loving that. And I'm also thinking, along with the growth that you've had so far, you would have also come across a lot of challenges in the business. So what, according to you, is a current challenge that you're facing at Chelton Brown?
Yeah, so I think there's two different ways to look at that. I think the first thing is from an operational point of view. When you look at lettings and estate agency as a whole, it's very legislative, and sort of current politics govern how we do things quite a lot. So there's constant changes that we have to keep up to date with to make sure we're protecting our clients, be it selling or letting houses. So legislation is probably the big one from a day-to-day running of the business. You know, in the last, I think it's 10 years, there's been over 170 changes to lettings legislation, which is pretty much a full-time job in itself. So
Right.
to keep ahead of the curve there is definitely one of the biggest challenges. But then when you sort of strip it back, I mean, I think any business, when you take a step back from the day-to-day operations, any business face more or less the same challenges, you know, be that a HR challenge, staff challenges, finances. So yeah, I mean, along the way, there's been, you know, lots of challenges. I mean, looking back, even in the short term, we've had COVID. You know, COVID prior to announcing that the furlough scheme and everything was going to come into place would have been an absolute mess. I remember sitting in my office when the furlough scheme rather was announced, and you know, it was almost a moment for having a little cry, wasn't it? You know, it was amazing to think that it secured the business. So there's been challenges on that front as well, but yeah, on a day-to-day running, it's probably legislation.
Got it. Interesting. Right. So, I mean, I was amused to know that there were a lot of changes that just happened in a few years. So adapting to that must be difficult. Understandable, quite understandable. And I'm thinking, since this is also a family business, I think this would be a really good question, and our viewers would want to hear more about this. Uh, how have you been able to balance your personal life with the demands of running the business? Has that
That's a good
been
question.
easy cakewalk, or was it really difficult?
No. I mean, I'm probably a bit of a workaholic, if I'm honest. You know, if you ask my wife if I balance work and family life, she'd probably say no. But I think I've probably got better at it. You know, look, when I was fresh out of university, I moved back home with my parents, and living with my mum and working was difficult. You know, we saw each other every day at work, and we went home and we talked about work. So there was no balance there, but it was nice because it was exciting, and you know, we were doing bits and pieces at the time that did make it exciting. In the last sort of 10 years, whilst I've moved out and live with my now wife, it's definitely better. You know, there has to be an element of shutting off, doesn't there? And you know, yes, I still have my emails on my phone, and I think I'm sure you do the same. We're all guilty of checking emails the first thing we do in the morning and the last thing at night. And you know, look, it's part and parcel of doing what we do, isn't it? And I think we only do it because we love it. So there has to be a balance, and there has to be a shut off. It's nice to have sort of at least 1 or 2 dedicated days a week where you can properly shut off, and that might be, you know, go out with my partner, my wife, walk the dog, get away with family, and that tries to keep it level. But you know, between the hours of 9 and 5:30, it's 100% locked in, and then sort of 70% locked in outside of those, I guess.
So do you have 1 or 2 days? Do you take 1 or 2 days off a week to completely shut off, or do you still think about the emails?
I still think about it. I don't think we ever stop thinking about work, do we? But no, I mean, look, if I'm quite lucky, I've got a decent setup at home where if I want to at the weekends, I take my laptop home and I can do bits. Sunday, I try my best not to touch work at all. You know, I quite often write a list of things I need to do Sunday evening, but that just helps me prep for the week. But Saturday and Sunday, I've got better. I mean, in the early days of me working, I used to do every Saturday, and that dropped to 1 in 4. And now I do Saturdays as needed, which isn't massively often, if I'm honest. So predominantly, you know, in the daytime, but really it's from sort of 6 o'clock in the morning when I'm up to sort of 9 o'clock in the evening. So yeah, I mean, it's not always full on, and I can take breaks, of course, as anyone can. But look, we're all guilty. We've got phones and laptops that just make it so easy to check in. And when you enjoy it, and it's something you're almost obsessed with, I guess, yeah, you can't help yourself, can you, at times?
Right. No. So what I hear is you have a lot of passion for what you do, which is absolutely wonderful. Sure.
Yeah.
That is great. I mean, I have also been at different points. I have been driven by passion, and then you know you go for it. But I also am guilty of having a lot of burnout. So I really need to take my time off as well. So yes, that balance is really important. So I'm glad that you
Burnout's a weird one, isn't
mentioned,
it? Because it creeps
yes,
up on you. You know, it creeps up on you.
yes, you never know when it's coming.
Yeah, there's been a couple of times where I'm like, Christ, I need to have a holiday. But I'm sure you're the same. Yeah.
Yeah, more or less, yes. Right. So that's interesting. Nice. And also, coming to think of it, if I have to take things back to the business and away from the personal life, what would you say are or what would you say have been your biggest learnings as an employer since you began at Chelton Brown?
Yeah, fine. So I think that there's been a lot. I mean, I think when you have a passion for something, like we do for any business, it's really hard, particularly early on, to understand sometimes why people don't have the same approach to work as certainly as I did. Look, I've always been 100% on board, and even when there's been something that I don't necessarily agree with, if we've decided it as a business, it's 100% in, and seeing that isn't always the case is really difficult. But it's taking a step back. Some people come to work and do a fantastic job, and then that's it for them, and that's absolutely fine, because we need people like that. I think the other thing is, as I've got a little bit older as well, is I've probably been guilty of wearing my heart on my sleeve a little bit too much, and being quite emotionally led with how I come across sometimes, and getting better at taking a step back and actually looking at problems rather than going full steam at them and shouting, or not shouting, but you know what I mean, just taking a step to reflect before I jump in. So yeah, that takes time, and I think away from that as well, I do a lot of I quite enjoy an audiobook and a podcast, and I think trying to factor in an element of reflective and sort of self-development on that side as well, that's probably helped my problem solving skills a little bit more as well. And yeah, helping sort of when there is a problem, be it HR or employing people, that does slow things down, and yeah, 9 times out of 10 you get the right outcome.
Mm-hmm. So what I hear, Edward, is that mainly you have had a lot of learnings around your team, around personal development, how you take decisions, taking that step back, looking at the bigger picture. Yes, so just if I were to wrap all that up, that's just so many points right there for our viewers, which is wonderful.
It's important. I mean, look, development, be it for the business or personally, is massively important. And I think I said earlier, when you look at a business as a whole, the more I've done through work, the less I've actually been involved in the day-to-day runnings. And look, if you look at Chelton Brown as an estate agency, your day-to-day estate agents doesn't actually have many transferable skills potentially to a business owner. And from early ages, I've worked as a letting agent and as an estate agent, and actually I got to a point where I was okay at that. I did a fairly good job, but then trying to shift across to running a business is massively different, hugely different. So yeah, lots of learnings.
Yeah, that's lots of learnings for us too, so thanks so much for that. And now, if I were to wrap up this interview, I think one of the last questions that I would ask you is, if you were to begin from square one in the business, just painting that picture for you. So if you were to start from scratch, what do you think you would have done differently in your journey at Chelton Brown?
Oh, I don't know. If I went back, I probably wouldn't have listened to myself anyway. I was so big. Wouldn't have listened to any of my own advice. No, I think probably the biggest thing, and we were a lot better at it now than we used to be, is we use something called a roadmap for everything. So all our processes are mapped out. We've developed sort of our own training and process platform. So through SharePoint, we've effectively got a training suite, which we've developed over the last few years. And I think if we were to start again, to get those processes written down and sort of mapped out earlier, would have saved so much time for training. I mean, we have, as I said, an amazing team of people here, and we're so lucky that we don't have much staff turnover. But when someone does leave, to have that in place to train someone new and get them up to speed quickly and effectively is brilliant. I remember reading or listening, I don't do a lot of reading, but I do listen to a lot of audiobooks, the E-Myth Revisited, really good book, and that talked about the franchise model. And the franchise model, although we'd never consider franchising, I don't think, well, never say never, but not something we'd consider. But having those sort of processes written down and saying, look, here is how we do things, here is our Bible of running Chelton Brown, that's something that really resonated. So I think if we were to go back and start again, we'd probably have stronger processes written down from day one. Which,
Yes, that also makes a lot of sense. Even to me personally, when I'm thinking about it, if you were to share what you know, if you do a normal knowledge transfer from one person to the other,
Yeah, 100%.
the person who joins in, they're just listening to what you understand about the process. But if it's written down, then it's aligned and there's no clarity there. So
Yeah.
I think, like you said, everything is a lot quicker and efficient.
Yeah, I think when you look at any business
Mm,
that's, really
mm,
successful, I mean, I did at
mm,
university, I did business management, and there was a lot on that,
mm,
on sort of fast food
mm,
chains like McDonald's. All their
mm,
processes are written down, and they're
mm.
all systemized, and they're all the same. You go into a
Right.
McDonald's in London, it's the same as a McDonald's in Manchester. Everything is done the
Right.
same, and that can be transferred to any business to get a level of consistency,
Mm,
and it then becomes what your client expects. You set
mm.
that standard and level of customer service from day one then, and hopefully that's what keeps people coming back and people with you. So
Yeah. Yep, yep. And where I work, they say, you systemize the process and you humanize the exceptions. So
100%.
systematization, it's so important
Yeah.
that you systemize everything.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's it. I
yes.
mean, look, there's always going to be a place for human interactions, isn't there? Because your process can be amazing, but if you've not got the right
Mm,
people having the right conversations and portraying the right values, then the systems are worthless. But the more you can systemize and process orientate things, the less variables there are for someone to get something wrong. And look,
mm,
mistakes happen and people get things wrong, but it's just
mm.
sort of checking those boxes and keeping the parameters, isn't it?
Yep, yep, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, so there you go, our dear viewers. Edward has spoken. So golden nuggets right there. Quite a lot of takeaways, which is really wonderful. I just enjoyed doing this interview for that very
Yeah,
reason, because
likewise.
so much
Thank you.
value that we were able to derive out of this wonderful interview. So thank you so much for taking the time out, Edward, to have this interview with us.
You're welcome. No, thank you ever so much for having me. It was lovely.